Good morning, students. So today, again for SST session, class 8th, topic civics, and chapter is the Indian Constitution. We had taken part 1, now we are on part 2. So I repeat again, our today's class is for civics, standard 8, chapter 1, part 2. Name of the chapter, the Indian Constitution. Okay, we will have a quick revision on part 1. Okay, we will look at the contents and to the remaining part, means the topics which we had left. Okay, so let's move to the contents. Now for the today's contents, we will see our Indian Constitution, like the key features you can count it out, and what are the fundamental rights. What fundamental rights do we have? How are they mentioned in the Constitution? Okay, today we will study these points. In part 1, we had seen what is Constitution, why does a country need a Constitution, who made the Constitution, what is Constituent Assembly, who was the chairman of the Constituent Assembly. Such points we had discussed in part 1. For that, we will have a revision of some points. We will take it from part 1 so that anything if you have missed out or you have forgotten, you will remember again, so that we will continue with part 2. So let's take a revision. Now in part 1, what had we seen? We had seen the first thing, what is Constitution. Now what is Constitution? What did I tell you? Constitution is a set of rules in which the rules and regulations are being written, and it tells you how to guide a country, state or other political organizations. There are also written about how would a government organ work. What are the responsibilities of a government organization, government organ? Okay, what are their powers? If they misuse their power, what is the punishment? Everything has been written in the Constitution. So a Constitution is a set of rules that guides a country, state or other political organization works, about how a country, state or other political organizations work. Then the Constitution of India, when was it adopted and by whom? It was adopted by the Constituent Assembly. Okay, and on 26th of November 1949. It was adopted by the Constituent Assembly in 1949, and it came to force, means when was it implemented? It was implemented on 26th January 1950. Okay. Now Constituent Assembly, I had told you, it is a group of members that are being selected or elected for some to make some documents or important documents, you can say, to take some decisions. Okay. Now it helps to serve the constituent, as the Constitution helps to serve the set of rules and principles, okay, that all persons in a country can agree upon as the basis on the way which they want the country to be governed. Means the Constitution has all the rights and regulations for the welfare of the people. people of the country, you can say the citizen of the country. Okay, so that the people will agree, the people may agree on the basis of what the way the government can be, the government can work. Okay, now the constitution also provides equal rights, about which we are going to discuss in this session in part 2. All the rights which are there with the citizen of the country is been written in the constitution. And the main thing, that this constitution, why was this constitution written? This constitution was written because when we were free from the British rule, our country was going through a turmoil. Turmoil means going through a very crucial condition. Okay, so at that time it was being thought by the leaders of our country that what can be done, what should we do, so that now no more other countries could come and rule on us. We should have now our own rules, our own regulations, so that we won't be the slave under any other country in future. So what did they do? They made the constitution. Okay, so these all points we had discussed in part 1. Now moving to part 2, we will see some key features in the Indian Constitution and the fundamental rights. Okay, so let's take a look on the key features. Now here are following the key features of the Indian Constitution. Okay, now first is the federalism. Now what is federalism? Federalism refers to the existence of more than one level of the government. More than one level of the government in a country is called to be federalism. Okay, these are at the state or the central level. These are at the state or the central level. Okay, there are 3 types of government: state, local and central. Okay, citizens are governed by laws and policies made by each of these levels of government. Now the laws and policies which are being made, the people are governed by these policies and laws. Okay, and that also as per the level of the government. When it is just, if it is the state government, then the laws and the policies will be of that state, of that status and that rules and regulations. And if it is in the central level, then it will have a different. Okay, so this is where the federalism works. This is federalism. Okay, then comes the parliamentary form of government. Now what is parliamentary form of government? Now parliamentary form of government, what do you understand by this? Parliamentary form of government. Now here you can take 2 words. One is parliamentary and other is government. Okay, so that says to a form of government that is based on the parliament. How can we count that? The form of government based on the parliament. Now here who sits in the parliament? The representative who are elected by your votes, right? The representative who are elected by your votes are the elected representatives and they sit in the parliament. Okay. Now how does this parliamentary form of government works? What is parliamentary form of government? In this parliamentary form of government, the elected representatives whom we select by giving the vote, okay, they sit there, they make laws for us. They sit in the parliament, they make laws for us. Okay, so after giving the vote, the people of India, like we the people of India, directly elect the representatives. Okay. Okay. So this is the parliamentary form of government in which the Constitution of India guarantees the universal adult suffrage, means the right to vote for all the citizens above 18 years. Okay, and this means every citizen of the country, irrespective to his or her social background, has the direct role of electing their representative. Means for electing your representative, you don't, your no social background has been seen of any of the citizen of the country. Whatever is your social background, you have the direct right to elect the representatives. And this representatives, which representatives you select, they sit in the parliament and make laws for you. So this is the parliamentary form of government in which your elected representatives sit and make laws and run the government. They are also accountable to the citizen of the country. Accountable to the citizen of the country means you can directly question them if any kind of problem is there. Means you have elected some representative for a purpose, so that they can run the government very smoothly. If they are not able to, then they are accountable to the people in a parliamentary form of government. There are two types of, one is democratic, one is monarchy, right? In a monarchy, you can't question anyone, because the monarchy is run by the king. After the king, his son. Okay, so here you have no right to question, or you won't be able to become a leader or nothing. You can't elect a representative for yourself. But in a democratic country, you have the right to question, because you elect your government by, or you elect your representative by universal adult franchise, by voting. Okay, so you have the right to ask if there is anything as per your, means as per you have selected the representative, for the purpose you have selected the representative. So this is the parliamentary form of government. Okay, now next we will see the separation of powers. To run a government, a government in a single, you can say, single group cannot work. Okay, so the powers are to be distributed, to be separated. So let's see how are these powers separated. Now the separation of powers, we can count as, there are three organs in a state. There are three organs in a state, from which the first is legislature, second executive, and third is judiciary. Okay, legislature, executive, and judiciary. These are the three organs of the state. Now what is legislature? Legislature refers to elected representatives who make the law. Now legislatures are the representatives. Representatives means the one who represents you. You means you have elected a leader, and that leader is your representative. Okay, so that representative, elected representative, sits in the parliament and makes law for you. So here it is said, who are legislatures? Legislature refers to our elected representatives. Okay, the leaders which we saw, the leaders you can count as the leaders we have elected, the candidate we have elected. So they are our representatives. They sit in the parliament and make laws for us. Okay, next is executive. The executive is a smaller group of people. Fine, legislature is one, and the executive means a group of people, a smaller group of people who are responsible of implementing laws and running the government. Now the legislatures make the law. Now to implement that law, now how is that law going to be implemented? If any rules and regulations are being made, that rules and regulations are supposed to be implemented also. So to implement that laws made by the legislature, it is responsibility of the executives. It is responsibility of the executives. Okay? And after that comes the judiciary. Now the judiciary refers to a system of courts in the country who settles disputes and makes sure that the laws are obeyed. Okay? Now these are the three organs. Now the judiciary, what does the judiciary do? The laws which are being made, they are followed, and if anybody disobeys the law, then the judiciary has the right to punish. Okay? And this how all the three organs work with one another. One organ acts a check on other organ, means the legislature. Now the legislatures, the laws which are being made by the legislature are being implemented by the executives. Okay? And the laws are implemented or not, or whether they are being disobeyed by the citizen of the people, and all are being watched by the judiciary. So here it is said that each organ acts as a check on the other organ of the state. And why it is being done? To ensure that the balance of power between all the three. This ensures the balance of power between all the three. If one would have not checked the laws of others, then the government would have not run very smoothly. So here each organ acts as a check on the other organ. So I repeat again, what is a legislature? The legislature refers to the elected representatives who makes law. Executive is a small group of people who are responsible for implementing laws and running the government. And judiciary sees to that the rules are being followed and nobody disobeys the laws. If the laws are being disobeyed, the judiciary has the right to punish. Okay? Now these were some of the key features. Let's move to the fundamental rights. Now the fundamental rights are referred to as the conscience of Indian Constitution. Okay? So what is conscience? Conscience means here you can say the soul, near to the soul. So the fundamental rights are referred as the conscience of the Indian Constitution, means the fundamental rights are the soul or near to the soul of the Indian Constitution, because the rights which are being written in the Constitution, the fundamental rights which are being there in the Constitution, they are all for the welfare of the people of the country, so that the country could run very smoothly. Right? So it has been said that the fundamental rights are referred as to the conscience of the Indian Constitution, means near to the soul of the Indian Constitution. Okay. Fundamental rights protect citizen against the arbitrary and absolute exercise of power by the state. Now what is arbitrary? Arbitrary means based on random choice of personal whim rather than any reason or system. Based on any personal whim rather than any system. Okay. So here it is said that fundamental rights protect citizen against the arbitrary and absolute exercise of the power by the state. Okay. The Constitution guarantees the rights of individuals against the state as well as against other individuals. Now, whatever rights have been written in the Constitution, it guarantees the right to the individual. Okay. Now, which are the 6 fundamental rights that are there in the Constitution? The first is the right to equality. I will here only tell you the fundamental rights. Further, we will discuss what are these rights and what do these rights say. Okay? First, just note down all the 6 fundamental rights. The first right, right to equality. Second, right to freedom. Third, right against exploitation. Fourth, right to freedom of religion. Number 5, cultural and educational rights. Number 6, right to constitutional remedies. Got it? These are the 6 constitutional rights, or you can say fundamental rights. I repeat again, a right to equality, a right to freedom, a right against exploitation, a right to freedom of religion, cultural and educational rights, right to freedom of religion, right to constitution remedies. Okay, so these are our 6 fundamental rights. In addition to the fundamental rights, the Constitution has a section called Directive Principle of State Policy. Okay, it ensures greater social and economic reforms and to serve as a guide to independent Indian state to institute laws and policies that help reduce the poverty of the masses. Now, other than this, other than the fundamental rights, or in addition to the fundamental rights, we can say the Constitution also sees that the social and the economic reforms, changes you can count as, okay, and if there is any such kind of problem, it also guides, okay, serves as a guide to the independent Indian state, okay, so that the poverty can be reduced, can be lessened down. Okay, now moving to our first right, I'll explain you now in the rights. In these rights, I will explain you what kind of rights are these. Knowing that right to equality, but what kind of equality do you have? Let's see. Now our first right, the right to equality. It ensures the equal rights for all the citizens. Okay, equal rights for all the citizens. Right to equality prohibits inequality on the basis of caste, religion, place of birth, race or gender. Means no inequality should be there on any basis. Whether the person is rich, whether the person is poor, or if he is of any class, he is of any caste, he is of any color. Color means whether he is dark, he is fair, anything. Where he is born. The place should also not matter. This is the right to equality. Means every person in the country has the right. Each and every right. Nobody can be treated on the basis of these features, these characteristics you can count as. Okay, and especially the gender. Gender means the rights which are there with the men are also there with the women. They have the equal rights. Okay, it also ensures equality of opportunity in the matters of public employment. Public employment means the source of income you can count it here, but here we are talking about employment, like if a man is doing some work, he is doing some job, and if a woman is capable in that, then she also has the equal right to have that job. Okay, so this is the public employment and prevents the state from discriminating against anyone in the matter of employment. The constitution, the right to equality, prevents the state from discriminating anyone. Means if any kind of discrimination is there in the society, the right to equality stops you from doing that. Okay, no job can be given on the basis of religion, race, caste, sex. Okay, descent. What is descent? Descent means an act of moving downward, dropping or falling. Means you cannot underestimate or you cannot exploit, you can say it as anyone. Okay, on the basis of their color, on the basis of their caste or disability, anything. No inequality. Here the right of equality says there should be no inequality in any terms. The place of residence, the place of birth, whether the person is not born in your country or not born in your state, he has come from some other state, but he is the citizen of your country. And the country, if the rights are there with everyone, then it is for everyone. So this is the right to equality, which says that there should be no inequality on the basis of caste, religion, place of birth, place of residence, race or gender. No inequality in any of the fields, whether it is employment, whether it is house or whether it is your society. Okay, now let's move to the another fundamental right, that is right to freedom. Right to freedom provides us various rights. Now what kind of freedom do you have in your country? Freedom in what sense? This right of freedom says that you have the right to speech. Means if you want to express your thoughts, you have that right. Okay, freedom of expression, you want to express something, then this right gives you that freedom also. Okay, freedom of assembly without arms, freedom of movement throughout the territory of our country. Here it is telling that inside the country, means inside India, if you want to change your residence, if you want to move from one place to another, means you are in Rajasthan, but now you don't want to live in Rajasthan and you want to move to Gujarat. Okay, then as per the constitution, the right of freedom, you have full freedom to move from one place to another and change your residence, but inside the country. As soon as you leave the country, the constitution changes. The constitution now works on the constitution of that country. Means from here, if you go to America, then their Indian constitution won't implement. There, the constitution of America will work, of that country. So here, first is the freedom of speech. Means you can speak, but not in an abusing way. You can express, you have the freedom of expressing yourself. Okay, you have the freedom of movement throughout the country. Wherever you want to reside inside India, you have full freedom to reside and live. Freedom to practice any profession means you won't be forced to select any profession on without your wish. If you want to become a doctor and family members or the people say no, you have to become an advocate, no, you have the freedom to practice any of the profession you like. Okay, you won't be forced. You can move anywhere in the country. Move means for tour or for traveling. You are free to go anywhere. You don't have to ask anyone. But not right down in the lockdown, okay, my dears? Or you will take the bag and start moving. Okay? So, jokes apart, let's move further. The right to freedom means you can move throughout the territory of your country anyway. You can reside in any part of the country. You can practice any profession you like. You have the freedom of all the things. Okay? And these rights have their own restrictions also. Now, there are some kind of restrictions also. It does not say that if I have told you right to speech, then you can speak anything. No. While speaking, you also have to check your words. Okay, as I told you, no abusing. Right to freedom is being given. Freedom of speech, but freedom of speech in the good way. Means you can express your way in a very decent way. Okay, movement throughout the territory of the country means you can travel anywhere, you can move, you can go, come back anywhere. Reside means you can, if you want to leave a place and reside somewhere else, then you can reside inside the country. You can change any of the cities, any of the state and live. Okay, but whatever rights and freedoms are being given to you, they have some restrictions, so you have to follow that. Okay, so this is the right to freedom. Now next is right against exploitation. Now what is right against exploitation? If anybody exploits you, exploits means, what does exploits mean? Exploit means if anybody treats you unfairly for the benefit of their work. Okay, if somebody uses you for their purpose, for their selfishness, and then they don't pay you for that, so this is called exploitation. Right against exploitation. Right against exploitation means if anybody is exploiting you, using you, you can raise your voice. Okay, now right against exploitation commends human trafficking, child labor, forced labor, making it an offense punishable by law. What is human trafficking? Human trafficking means, you can say here, like for the purpose of slaves. You can say it's counted as slaves. Means you need a servant at your house, in your house, but you want a servant who should not be paid. And for that, what do the people do? They buy the people. Buy the people. Okay, human trafficking means selling the people from one place to another. Okay, what is human trafficking? The action or practice of illegally transporting people from one place to another or to another area, and for the basis of making them slaves. Slave means, I have told you, if you need a servant in your house and you need a servant who should not be paid, so for that what would you do? You would just illegally take an action, illegal action, and bring a person or a servant at home for your work. Child labor. Now what is child labor? Children below 15 years, below 15 years, if they are not being sent for education, are not sent to school, and instead of that, if they are being forced to work, then this is counted in child labor, which is also a punishable crime, which is also a crime, and it is punishable by the law. Okay, and if somebody is forced for labor, okay, somebody is forced for labor, then that is also a punishable work. That is a punishable thing. Right against exploitation also prohibit any action of compelling a person to work without wages. Means if anybody is working under any company, any industry, or any way, okay, then they have the right to get the wages. Wages means money. They have the right to get the salary, and if they are not being paid the salary, then the person who has kept on the work, that is the employer, can be punished. Means each and every person who is working has the right to get the wages. Okay, but right against exploitation says that it also prohibits any act of compelling a person to work without wages. You cannot force any person to work without money, okay, where he was legally entitled not to work or to receive remuneration for it, unless it is for the public purpose like community service or NGO work. Means if you are working for an organization for some good purpose, okay, then in that purpose you can say like community service, samaj seva, you can count it. Okay, when you are doing some samaj seva, social work, then in that purpose it is fine, you won't be paid, or you are willingly doing it for some good purpose, then that is not exploitation. But if somebody is taking some work from you and not paying you for that, and that is exploitation. Means he or she is using you, and for this the right against exploitation is there in the Constitution, for which it is saying that each and every person of the country who works under someone has the right for wages. Okay, so right against exploitation commends human trafficking, child labor, forced labor making it, okay, and the people to work without wages. So you can raise your voice whenever you are being exploited from any of these. Now next is right to freedom of religion. Right to freedom of religion guarantees religious freedom and ensures secular states in India. Okay, religious freedom means every person can respect their religions. You won't be forced or you won't be abused, you can say, for that. Every people has the right with their religion. The Constitution says that the state should treat all religions equally. For government, each and every people is equal, whether he or she is of any caste, religion, okay, and impartially, and that no state has an official religion. No state has an official religion. The state has no religion. They have to work impartially. No partiality should be there. Okay. It also guarantees all people and freedom of conscience and the right to preach, practice or propagate any religion of their choice. Means people can accept any religion they want and they can respect their religion in the ways like celebration of festivals, wearing of clothes. Okay, this all depends on the culture and the religion. So every person in the country, every citizen of the country has the right to freedom of their religion. Has the right to freedom of their religion. They can preach. Preach means pray the way they want. They can worship the God, their God, as the way they want. They can practice their religion the way they want. Every religion has the equal freedom in the country, okay, of their own choice. Okay, they can spread and promote their religion, like the satsangs and we are conducted by the people. So everybody has the right to preach, to practice and to propagate their religion. People can celebrate their festivals as the way they want. It does not mean that you are a Hindu and if you want to celebrate Christian, you can't. Yes, you can. That is only called the freedom of, right to freedom of religion. If any Christian wants to celebrate Diwali, they have the full rights, they have the full freedom to do it. Okay, but with full respect. With full respect. Okay. Next is cultural and educational rights. Let's see. Cultural and educational right protects the rights of cultural, religious, linguistic minorities by enabling them to conserve their heritage and protecting them against discrimination. Educational rights ensures education for everyone, irrespective of their caste, gender and religion. Cultural and educational rights protects the rights of the culture and religious and linguistic minorities. Linguistic means related with languages. Every language should be respected whether you understand or no, right? But you have no right to make a joke or to abuse any languages. Okay. Second, religious. Religious means you have to respect all the religions. Okay, you have to know the importance of all the religions. You should not only have the knowledge of you should not only know about your religion only. There are many religions and you should respect and know about each and everything. Same goes for the culture. The culture of India is the same, but you should respect the culture. Every state has its own culture. You should try to know about it and try to respect that culture. Nobody can stop you. You have the full freedom. You have the full right of that. Okay? And talking about the talking about the educational right. Educational right means from the age of 4 to till the age of 15, each and every child has the right to take the education, to have education. Okay, and if any child is not seen going to school, you can say it as, or he or she is being not sent to school only because of the child labor, then it is punishable. You can't give an excuse that we don't have money, so we have not sent the child to school. Government has started many government schools, elementary schools, where you can send your child for free education. And education is for everyone, irrespective of their caste. Here also no caste, no gender, no religion matters. Anybody, the citizen of our country, can take education. Okay, so this is the cultural and educational right. Now next is the right to constitutional remedies. Right to constitutional remedies ensures citizens to go to the Supreme Court of India to ask the enforcement of protection against violation of their fundamental rights. Okay, means if any of the fundamental rights are not being followed, if any person is being exploited and he can raise his voice for that, he can go to the court and file a case against it. Okay, if any person, right to education, as we had seen before, if anybody is not sent for education for a simple purpose, then they can raise the voice and go to the Supreme Court of India and ask for the protection against the violation of their fundamental rights. The Supreme Court has the jurisdiction to enforce the fundamental right even against private bodies, and in the case of any violation, award compensation as well to the affected individual. Means if any of the fundamental rights are not being followed, then the Supreme Court can take the action, whether it is any of the private bodies. It can be anyone, any leader, any profession, anything. Okay, and it can ask for the award compensation for that person who has filed the case to the affected individual. So this is the right to constitutional remedies. If the constitutional rights are not being followed, then also you can raise the voice, you can go to, you have the right, and it is for it can be done by anyone, the poor people or the rich people or anyone. Okay, they can go to the Supreme Court and ask for the protection against violation of their fundamental rights, and the government sees and the Supreme Court sees, okay, has the jurisdiction to enforce the fundamental rights even against the private bodies. It can be anyone. The police is also not, if the police of any post of the police or anybody, okay, if they are not following the fundamental rights, you can immediately raise the voice. Now here we have seen all the 6 rights. Now about secularism. A secular state is one in which the state does not officially promote any one religion. Now India is a secular country. India is secular. Means here in India, we officially do not promote any one religion, right, as a state religion. We respect all the religions. Okay, and secular state says that no state can officially promote any one religion as the state religion. Okay, the constitution also plays a crucial role in laying out the ideals that we would like all citizens of a country to adhere it, including the representatives that we elect to rule us. The representatives, the leaders which we select. Okay. So the constitution plays a crucial role in laying out the ideals that all the individuals, whether it is the people of the country or any of the representatives that we elect or they rule us. The constitution has been changed over years to reflect new concerns of the polity that involves a change in the fundamental nature of the country. Now the constitution, since when it has been written over years, there have been certain changes also, and that certain changes are for the welfare of the people. Okay, as per the need of the country. Okay, now here I have explained you all the 6 fundamental rights, about the secularism, about the key feature of the constitution. During this we have gone through some of the hard words. Okay, so now let's have a look on the word meanings. Now the word meanings. Our today's first word is turmoil. Turmoil means a state of great disturbance, confusion and uncertainty. Turmoil, a state of great disturbance, confusion and uncertainty. Next word, eradication. Eradication, the complete destruction of something. Destruction means to spoil, to finish it fully. Okay, the complete destruction of something is eradication. Federalism, it is called a system of government. A system of government is known as federalism. Okay, judiciary, what is judiciary? The judicial authority of a country, or you can tell the judges, you can tell the judges in collectively, it is called the judiciary, related with law. Secularism, the principle of separation of state from religious institutes. Okay, what is secularism? Secularism means the principle of separation of the state from religious institutions, means no state can promote any one religion. Explicitly, next word, explicitly, EXPLICITLY. Explicitly means stated clearly and in detail and leaving no room for confusion or doubt. Means to state clearly, to explain clearly where there is no doubt being left, then it could be said as explicitly. Enforcement, next word is enforcement, the act of compelling observance of or compliance with a rule, law or obligation. Enforcement means the act of compelling observance of or compliance with a law, rule or obligation. Propagate, propagate means to spread and promote widely. Spread what? Theory, idea, thought, anything. Next is linguistic. Linguistic means relating to language. Descent, descent means an act of moving downward, dropping or falling. Okay, next is arbitrary. Arbitrary, based on random choice of personal whim rather than any reason or system. Arbitrary, based on random choice of personal whim rather than any reason or system. So these are our today's word meanings: turmoil, eradication, federalism, judiciary, secularism, explicitly, enforcement, propagate, linguistic, descent and arbitrary. Now let's move to a short exercise with some question and answers which will help you to remember whatever you have forgotten. Okay, so let's take a look. Exercise. Our today's first question. What is constitution? What is constitution? A set of rules, a document with a set of rules which helps the government to govern the country. Or you can say a written document. A written document which helps the government to rule the country. Which are the 6 fundamental rights? Next question. Write the 6 fundamental rights of the Indian Constitution. Which are the 6 fundamental rights? Right to equality, right to freedom, right to freedom of religion, right against exploitation, cultural and educational rights, and right to constitutional remedy. These are the 6 rights. I repeat again. Right to equality, right to freedom, right against exploitation, right to freedom of religion, cultural and educational rights, and right to constitutional remedies. These are the 6 rights with us. Okay, fundamental rights. What are the 3 organs of the state? What are the 3 organs? Legislature, executive, and judiciary. These are the 3 organs of the state. Which are the 3 organs? Legislature, executive, and judiciary. Okay, explain the fundamental right. Which right? Right to freedom. You have to explain the fundamental right. Right to freedom. Now, what is right to freedom? Right to freedom means this right says that you have the right of speech, freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of assembly without arms, freedom of movement throughout the territory of our country, freedom of association, freedom to practice any profession, freedom to reside in any part of the country. This is right to freedom. Okay. Next, who is known as the father of the Constituent Assembly? Who is known as the father of the Constituent Assembly? Who is known as the father of the Constitution? He was also the president and or the chairman of the Constituent Assembly. Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar. Okay. Next, name the members of the Constituent Assembly. Who were the members? I had told you there are 7 members, right? Including Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar was the chairman, and other than that, there were other 7 members by the name of Aladi Krishna Swamy Iyer, D.P. Khetan, Miss N. Madhav Rao, K.M. Munshi, N. Gopal Swamy Iyengar, T.T. Krishnachari, and Syed Muhammad Shadullah. These were the 7 members in the Constituent Assembly. Now, when is the Constitution Day celebrated? When is the Constitution Day celebrated? Remember, 26th of November every year. 26th of November every year, the Constitution is celebrated. Okay. Now, what is democracy? Our last question is, what is democracy? So, that is a system of government by the whole population or all the eligible member of the state, typically through the elected representatives. Okay. What is democracy? Democracy means, now democracy means ruled by the people. Okay. Where the people can take part in the decision that can affect the way their community is run. So you can say democracy means rule by the people, for the people, to the people. Okay. Now this, we have come to an end to the chapter 1, okay, Indian Constitution. Please study well, whatever you have written it, note down everything, okay, and study properly. Till then, take care of your health. This is must, and bye.